Alright guys, welcome to A Girl Named Jared. Today is going to be a bit more of a vulnerable video, but you guys have been asking, what do I use to bind while doing drag shows? First off, don't ever wrap anything completely around your torso. You're going to put it on too tight, you're going to notice bruising in the ribs, you're going to notice that you cannot breathe. Especially with drag, you're going to be out dancing and everything else. If there are non-binary guys, FTM guys watching this, and you're just looking for a way to look a little bit flatter but maybe not have to wear a binder, eliminate the layers, that's fine. I don't recommend this for long-term periods. This is how to flatten those suckers down. First thing is buying some sort of tape. Now I know people who use duct tape for performances, but duct tape is not going to be waterproof. So as soon as you start to sweat, that stuff is going to fall off. Probably not a good option. I like to use athletic tape. Right now I'm using a really cheap kind called Spartan Tape. I'm not a huge fan of the product, but KT tape is expensive. Other brands to keep an eye out for is Rock Tape, and I think there's Mountain Tape. Before you start putting this stuff on your body, go onto YouTube, look up the specific brand, and look at how they apply it. Now all of this tape is used for all sorts of injuries. And the big thing that they recommend, and that I also recommend, is once you get your strip of tape, is to round out the corners. So right now they're kind of squared off. We're going to round those out so that way you don't have this corner that is just peeking up and is going to want to roll off. Easy way to round out the corners. Grab a nice sharp pair of scissors because this stuff is kind of stretchy. Hold it as taut as possible and then just simply cut on the side and kind of curve around as you go, and that's how you round out the corner. Probably something you were doing in crafting class or art class way back when. We're going to do all four sides. So once you get those corners rounded out, piece should look like this. Now, Spartan tape comes in one giant roll. Most of this stuff comes in one giant roll. It is 2 inches wide. I think you can get some that are 4 inches wide. There's also trans tape out there now, which I haven't played with. I'm interested, but I was going for a cheap option. With Spartan tape, I like to have 3 sections. So there's like the bigger square sections. Makes it a 2x2 piece. I like to do 3 of those. This stuff stretches. When you first lay it down, you're going to probably lay down about this much. This much on stretched. You want to lay that flat with no stretch so that way it stays in place. And you're going to stretch out the middle fully and then release it just a little bit to give yourself some breathing room, because you want to be able to inhale and your whole body can stretch with it. And then once again at the tail end you're going to lay down about 1 inch or so that is on stretch so that way it sticks in place. And then you will rub that area down so that way the adhesive starts working. Things to consider. What I like to do is I use about 5 pieces total. My first piece will actually be 4 long, and that'll be the one that's going to go through the center. And then all the other pieces are 3 pieces long. I'm probably somewhere between a BC cup, I think. Somewhere in there-ish. This works pretty well for that. If you're anything bigger than that, I would recommend going to look at other tutorials. So with that being said, most vulnerable part of the video, I'm going to go ahead and take a step back so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that you can see everything that I am doing. First thing, you don't want to lose sensitivity in some very sensitive parts of your body. So band-aids, tissue, something, it will hurt really bad if you rip it back, and it will hurt even worse if it starts to bleed. So had a friend on Drag Kings Unite on Facebook go ahead and recommend band-aids. Is the best thing I've ever heard in my entire life. With the KT tape, you want to prevent yourself from touching the tape portion as much as possible. Spartan tape. So what I recommend is, since it stretches, kind of stretch it out and pull that white first piece off. And this will be the piece that's going to be on stretched. You're just going to lay that flat on your skin. Trying to not touch it as much as possible here. Alright, so I've got just a little over 1 inch that I'm going to place down. And I'm going to rub into place, and I'm placing it just past the band-aid because I don't want, for whatever reasons, I stretch and then that band-aid tries to pull up underneath. That would hurt. Then I'm going to go ahead and start peeling this tape back. I'm going to peel it back pretty far because I need to be able to stretch the end of this out. and give it a full stretch, and then release just a little bit so that we have about an 80% stretch, and then start pushing it down, laying it as flat as possible all the way around your back. Hopefully you guys can see this because I can't. And once I run out, just try to lay that flat back there, as flat as possible. I went up just a little bit. That should be okay. The basically 8-inch strip, once it's stretched out, is almost too far for me to reach, so you might need to make that just a little bit shorter, depending on your arm reach and everything else. I've used it with the 6-inch strips before to do the whole thing, and that seemed just a little bit too short, so I might need to actually edit and, you know, do something in between. You want to do both sides at the same time. So I'm going to take another longer piece. Once again, stretch that white piece off. This will be the end that's not going to be stretched out at all. I just want to lay that flat, kind of rub those edges down. Try to rub those edges down on the back. And lay this just past the band-aid here. And rub that down into space so it sticks well. And then go ahead and pull that backing off. Hopefully you guys can still hear me too. Pulling that backing off to about where I'm going to stop the stretch at. I'm going to stretch it all the way out to the side and bring it back in just a little bit to give myself some breathing room. And then keep stretching around the back. Get it to lay down as flat as possible. I can already feel it start to wrinkle. And rub that down into place. Alright, step 1 done. Step 2, I like to take care of the under moob, or whatever we're calling it in this video. You guys can leave comments below, let me know what you call them. Same process over and over again. So, portion of it that's not going to stretch out, go ahead and lay that flat. You'll want these to overlap just a hair, so that way we don't have any extra skin poking out. Rub that down for stickiness. Pull the adhesive back and stretch out. Release just a little to give yourself some breathing room and lay that flat. Yeah, so that 6-inch piece is a lot easier for me to be able to reach and smooth down. I've done this about 3 times. It takes practice. Once again, lay it flat. You don't want that initial bit to be stretched out or it's just not going to stick on. Pull the piece covering the adhesive back, and I am using a mirror so I can see what I'm doing. Stretch it almost completely out and then lay it flat. Alright, piece number 3. Now I know some people, they can get away with like 3 pieces of tape and they're good. Unfortunately, that is not the case with me. Try not to touch that adhesive as I'm groping my extra adhesive. And I've got this lovely tattoo here on my side, so I always like to go up and around it, so that way when I'm performing, it looks as natural as possible versus having part of that picture taken out of place. Cool thing about this kind of adhesive is it is stretchy and flexible, so you can kind of go up and down. And if you start to see some of your edges rolling up a little bit, go ahead and rub those back down into place. Just rub out. And I have done chest makeup for the last drag show that I did. I am not going to show you how to do that this time around, only because I am still looking for the best options. But keep an eye out, there will be a video for that sometime in the future. Alright. I'm just kind of flattening that back. Now, I want to point out that I am not wrapping all the way around my body. I'm leaving a pretty decent gap in the middle of my chest so I can expand my lungs. I am leaving the majority of my back open because I don't want to cause this all to be very tight and make it impossible to breathe. I don't want to create any extra pressure on my rib cage. So I don't want to be crushing everything. I just want to crush the fat to my chest. So this is actually pretty comfortable. And like I said, as long as you're doing only about an 80% stretch, so what you do is you stretch it all the way out. and then you release it just a little bit. So that little 20% that you left unstretched, that's what's going to move and stretch out as you breathe. And it's just going to do this while you're breathing. It's going to give you that extra room. Recommended by doctors yet. I don't recommend wearing it for long periods of time. KT tape you can leave on for a couple of days, shower with it and stuff. Don't do that when you're binding. It's a very sensitive area of your skin, so you just want to take care of it. So put it on for an hour or two. I think I've had it on for up to 5 hours because I was at a bar after the show. But then come home, take it off very carefully, and it's not like ripping off a bandaid. You do not want to just tear it off. You want to come at it very slowly. Some people take it off in the shower. You can use baby oil. Once again, look up the type of tape that you're using. Look for ways to remove it. They're going to have the best suggestions because they're the ones who made that product. And then give yourself a day or two to breathe. You don't need to do this every single day. Give yourself a day or two to breathe if you can, and go from there. If you need an extra strip or two, go ahead and use them. If you don't use any more than you need to, because you don't need to be tearing off any more than you actually have to. But that's how you bind or tape things down for drag shows, or any other purpose that you have. Just once again, it's safety first. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure that it's comfortable for you. If you can't breathe, you did it wrong. If you feel pain in your rib cage, you've done it wrong. If you're ripping out your armpit hair, shave, or you've done it wrong. So, if you feel pain, you're not doing it right. Thanks for watching the tutorial. This is a girl named Jared. If this was useful to you, hit that share button. Go ahead and hit like, but mostly hit the share if you found it useful, and have other friends, family members that can benefit from the tutorial.